welcome to Chats with Soul. Today we're going to cover the topic, how to overcome social anxiety. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say that I am not a medical professional, I'm not a psychiatrist or something like that. So what I'm going to share with you today is stuff that has worked for me, it has worked for some people I've taught this to, and I hope that it can help you as well. But please don't take this as medical advice or anything. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's get right into it. Social anxiety is a very, very important topic to discuss, and it can be very debilitating. Many people suffer from it, and there are things that we can do about it. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get rid of it 100%, as you'll understand in this video, but you can definitely manage it significantly where it doesn't really bother you much anymore. And I really hope that this will be possible for you when you apply the techniques that I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, I urge you to stay to the end of the video. There is a next step, that's something that you can start doing from today, and I'll tell you about that at the end of the video so that you can keep going and you know what to do on this journey of overcoming social anxiety and anxiety in your own life. So today's video is going to be broken up into 3 different sections. I'm going to discuss why we have social anxiety, because it explains a lot. I'm going to discuss what we can do, and I'm going to discuss what your life can look like after you apply these methods when social anxiety is more under your control. So first off, let's go into the history of social anxiety. Why do we have it? Well, social anxiety is actually an evolutionary advantage. It's something that we evolved over millions of years to keep us safe from predators. About 10,000 years ago, there was a very significant shift in how we all lived our lives. This was the advent of agriculture. So agriculture basically meant that tribal societies started figuring out how to farm and then how to store the surplus, which then allowed us to essentially build societies and cities and everything else. But before 10,000 years ago, we were living as hunter-gatherers. Now, hunter-gatherers would generally live in groups of about 150 to 155 people. But how does this relate to social anxiety? Well, there is a bit of a myth that there were these lone hunters back, hundreds of thousands of years ago, would live up in the cave by themselves and survive. That is generally an individual that was outcast from society, and that's why they are in that scenario. Most people would rely on their tribe for their survival. We would live in these groups, and essentially if you had to go out there by yourself and try to get enough nutrients and try to find safety and shelter on your own, it was very unlikely, which means that you had to fit in with your group of fellow tribe members for your own survival. Your survival seriously depended on whether everybody liked you and wanted to keep you around in the tribe. And this explains a lot. This explains why we have evolved to overthink other people's thoughts. We worry about what everybody else is thinking about us, about our life choices, about our relationships, about our clothes, whatever. Every little thing, we always cast our mind into what is everybody else thinking about this right now. And this naturally can create a lot of anxiety and overthinking and fear, because you're always worried, for your own survival as to what other people's opinions are of you. Now, while this is an amazing function of the body, that it keeps us safe by making sure that we gel and we fit in with our surroundings, it can also be a double-edged sword, right? Because this is now 2020, which means it's actually an amazing time to be alive, despite all the stuff that's going on in the world right now. We have never been safer. We've been keeping track of violence and murders and all that stuff for about 1,000 years, pretty reliably. And this planet has only been getting safer. All of these incidents of violence and wars and everything has just been dropping more and more and more. And then on top of that, we now have, Uber Eats and 24-hour food and insurance and law and order and all these systems that keep us incredibly safe, so that really there's never been a better time to, put that overthinking survival mode anxiety function a little bit aside and turn it down, because this is a time, this is like a gift We incarnated, you and me both, and everybody else that's watching, we have incarnated in an incredible time. Technology is enabling us to, communicate like this, and we're safe and everything else. And but we're still sitting around worrying and fearful the same way that we were hundreds of thousands of years ago. Because you have to remember that while your mind may be that of a 2020 person, your body is running the hardware of a caveman. You're a cave woman or a caveman. That is, physically, we have not changed in 200,000 years. So, except for eye color, hair color, and from moving around different climates. So we are running Stone Age hardware, and that is why we have this overactive anxiety function within us, because we're trying to keep up with all this crazy change, and whereas you used to have to look out for 155 people as to what they think about you, now you have social media. So you have millions of people who can leave comments and criticize you, and this is really playing with the dials in terms of our physical makeup. Okay, so this explains the existence of social anxiety, because if you have a fearful individual in a dangerous world, they are more likely to survive than someone who's just chill and relaxed and whatever. And we are the descendants of this lineage, of generations upon generations of people who are fearful for their own survival and fitting into the crowd in order to be able to survive. But these days, it's actually more of an advantage to stand out, if anything, right? If you're a musician or you're a performer or an artist or politician or whatever it is, you need to be able to own, your voice to really be the truest, biggest version of yourself in order to attain success. So it's no longer as much of an advantage. Okay, anyway, so that covers the history as to why we have it. Now you understand, it's an evolutionary program. It's not that you're broken, it's just that this is something that keeps you safe, but it is overactive. So what can we do to take more control of it? Well, there are methods. The biggest thing really, the muscle that allows you to overpower social anxiety, or at least let it dissipate, is really self-awareness. Now, what is self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is awareness of the self, as the word says. It's you knowing who you are, and even more, in a more detailed way, you having the ability to observe yourself from a third-person perspective. See, most people are on autopilot. We have so many thoughts, and they're so enticing, and we have these stories in the mind that are telling us the story of our life, right? And the voice inside our head, our thoughts, really dictate everything. See, as an example, imagine you have a really crappy mattress. Okay, one person lies down on it and they go, "This is the worst mattress I've ever slept on. I cannot sleep on this. Well, this day sucks, blah, 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 blah." Another person lies down on the mattress and they go, "This is a pretty good mattress. I've slept on worse." Okay, so they are both having completely different experiences. The only thing that differs is their thoughts and the context of the voice inside their head. So this is really what you need to work with in order to overcome social anxiety, because social anxiety, for me anyway, it manifested as a voice inside my head that told me to be quiet and to be small and to not speak up and to second guess everything. I suffered from this for a long time until I discovered what I'm going to discuss with you guys next. Now, the greatest tool for developing self-awareness is meditation and being present. So let me explain what both of these are. So being present is a state where you are fully here and now, and your senses are engaged in the actual world, in this actual moment, more so than the story that my head is trying to, entice me into entertaining. It's the difference between smelling a flower and trying to figure out what this flower is called, or how long it's been growing here. It's a very big different way of living your life when you are fully present for a moment versus trying to intellectualize it and label it and try to measure it and predict what's going to happen next, and that's what we're all doing for so much of our time. Now, when you develop self-awareness, you will still have negative thoughts that try to make you socially anxious, right? But the difference is that you'll have a choice. You'll realize that it's just a thought and just let it pass by without feeling it, without amplifying it, without thinking that it's true and then actually acting on it. You can let socially anxious thoughts pass you by as a mental exercise. But it's not as easy as just doing it. At least it wasn't for me or anyone that I've taught. There is an exercise that you can practice deliberately every day that grows your self-awareness, and that is meditation. Now, when I say the word meditation, I have to caveat it with that there are many different kinds of meditation, and there are some differences between them in terms of effectiveness, in terms of what works for what kind of person in what kind of scenario. So it's not all one thing, okay? Now, there are methods of meditating where you focus on a single point, where you basically choose one thing and you continually catch your mind by being observant of it, by being aware of where your mind is going. And every time your mind wanders away from this single point of focus, you catch it and you put it back. Now, every time you do this, it's like you're training your awareness. Your mind wants to run off into some story about why tomorrow is going to be terrible and you need to do it. And you go, no, I'm going to focus on, this thing over here. Now, this sounds like a really simple exercise, but it's actually incredibly powerful. See, there's a twofold effect to this, threefold even. Number one, you realize that you're not the voice inside your head. You realize that you're greater than the stream of consciousness that is bubbling through your skull, that is trying to tell you what everything is. But the words, you can't wash your hands in the word water, right? So reality and the words that we come up with in our head, they're two very different things. And the actual world out here is a lot more in-depth, and it's ineffable. You cannot put it into words, but we try to. We try to all day long. We try to label everything, right? But so when you meditate, you develop the ability to rise above the voice inside your head. That's number one. Second, though, is that there are actual physiological effects from meditation, such as your nervous system calming down, your adrenaline, your cortisol, all those stress levels start to fade. They start to get less and less. In fact, if you meditate for the long term, even your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, it actually starts to atrophy and starts to get smaller. So even if let's say you meditate for a couple of years and then you stop, your capacity for fear and anxiety and social anxiety when you stop meditating after 2 years is actually less than it was when you first started, which is an amazing thing. There are physiological effects from meditation. So you're going to set up your body to already be less anxious and less stressed as it is. You'll be more chill. You'll also then develop the ability to catch yourself and interrupt your ways of thinking if they are not serving you. Such as when you go out and you go like, oh, I wonder what everybody else is thinking of me. And you go, oh, wait, I don't need to worry about that. I only need to worry about what I'm thinking, because that's all you have control over, right? So you can catch yourself like that. Now, the third realization, and also the third part of this video that I want to mention, is a grand realization that really changes how you live your life after this sinks in. At least it really did for me and others that I've told this to. So, as I said, when you start meditating and you start observing your mind, you start growing your self-awareness, there comes a point where you realize something, which is that before this moment, you were always putting a lot of value on other people's thoughts, right? Other people's thoughts are valid and they're important and you should try to fit in and all that kind of stuff. This sounds like, common knowledge. But I challenge that, because science tells us we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. That is a lot of thoughts, and they're not all quality. In fact, 80% of our thinking is negative in nature, because it's more of a survival tactic to think negatively than positively, as I mentioned before. And 95% of our thoughts are actually repetitive. So they're just the same ones coming around all the time. Now, when you start observing your own mind with a meditation practice or by trying to be present, you will notice that your mind is incredibly random. The mind is constantly throwing stuff at you all day long. It's judging and it's labeling and it's criticizing and it's measuring. It's trying to put things in hierarchies and everything, because that's what it does in order to survive, right? If the mind sees a tiger once, it will be afraid every single time it sees orange and black stripes. It's not going to the next time be like, oh, orange and black stripes, I wonder what that is. Or maybe this tiger's friendly. No, you will just react the same way every time. You will make snap judgments to secure your survival. And this is everyone. So everybody criticizes and judges each other, not because they're just bad people, but because that is what the program of our body is designed to do. So what you then have to do is to not put your self-worth on the gibbering mind of an overthinking person, of anyone really. Do not put your self-worth and whether you are worthy and whether you're enough on the voices inside other people's heads. Because here's the big realization. Most people are not doing the work. Most people are not trying to build their self-awareness. They don't necessarily sit and meditate for 20 minutes a day because they don't see the value in it. They haven't understood it yet. So most people are just going about their autopilot ways. Okay, now we can agree that putting your self-worth and whether you should feel like you fit into a crowd or into a social situation onto whether these people approve of you is a terrible idea. Do not use it as a measurement stick of your self-worth, okay? We can agree on that. Great, so that's one category. Then the other category are people who do the work, who are meditating, who are doing yoga and breath work, and who are reading, and they're trying to expand their consciousness. They're into personal development. They are trying to be better people. They're trying to relate to other people and listen and be compassionate and grateful and all that stuff. Okay, so these people, if they judge or criticize you for what you said or what you're wearing or how your hair looks or whatever else in a social situation, they're just going to catch themselves. Because the fact that you're doing this work doesn't mean you stop having negative thoughts. I still have negative thoughts all the time. It's just the difference is I know that I'm not those thoughts. So I can catch them and go, stop judging people. Stop judging people. They're you. Oh yeah, they're me. Okay, cool. So these people, you don't need to worry about what they're thinking either because they're going to audit themselves. So when you realize that, you realize that you're free. You're free from the perception of others because these people don't even realize what they're doing and it's negative and it doesn't matter. And these people will catch themselves. So all you then have to worry about is, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Well, then be comfortable, no matter what you're wearing, no matter how you're dancing, no matter what your voice sounds like. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. What other people think does not matter. What you think matters. That is your greatest task. That is your challenge for this life. To become the master of the voice inside your head and then to fine-tune your consciousness until until you're living your best life and you're contributing to the people around you just with your mere presence. And so this is how I have overcome social anxiety, and it really boils down to growing your self-awareness through the practice of meditation and practicing being present, observing your mind. Now, the last thing I want to say is, obviously, you probably want to put this into action today. I highly recommend you do. It is absolutely life-changing, and you can. Now, we run a meditation school, of course, but we don't want to just hold it all back. So we actually made a free masterclass, which you can click on the link in the description and it'll take you there, and it's about a 1-hour class. And in that class, we give you a meditation practice. It's a powerful practice. It takes about 10 minutes. You can do this every day and it will start to show significant changes in your anxiety, in your social anxiety. I'm very, very confident about this. And it takes no effort. It's an amazing situation where you can have a huge positive impact on your own life and the people around you by simply sitting still and doing nothing for 10 minutes a day, 10 to 20, It's a pretty good deal. So so click the link down below this video and give it a try. And I would also love to get some of your feedback down in the comments. It's not that I care about your criticism, but I do take your positive comments on board because I can always improve that way as well. So I hope you got lots out of this video today. This is my attempt at sharing with you the insights that have helped me overcome social anxiety, and I hope they can do the same for you. I'm wishing you an awesome day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.